bye week is officially over for the Baltimore Ravens. We'll take a look at where the league currently stands heading into week 15 and what the Ravens' path to the playoffs and or a division win looks like. We also got some more Diontae Johnson information. We'll talk on that a little bit. And we're talking about how much this defense has improved, all that and more in today's episode of the Flock Rundown.
Ravens Flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.
Appreciate you, Ray. What's up, Ravens fans? My name is Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Before we get into today's video, we got to shout out the sponsor of today's video, DIYOJ.com. This is the place for any custom jerseys, any sport. They hooked me up with this one right here, a Flock Rundown Ravens jersey. If you want to check it out, use the link that's in my description, and then at checkout, use code Flock Rundown for an extra 10% off. DIYOJ.com for any custom jerseys that you need. All right, let's get back into today's episode. So the Ravens are 8-5. They're currently the 5th seed now in the AFC standings. They have the same record as the Texans, Chargers, and Broncos, but they are ahead of the Chargers and Broncos because they beat them. Right now, we would be slotted to play the Houston Texans in the playoffs if it ended today. Obviously, there's 4 weeks left, so a lot of things are going to happen, but let's look at this path to a division win and just making the playoffs in general. The Ravens are pretty much a lock to make the playoffs. We'll start there. I mean, 97% chance that the Ravens make the playoffs. So I don't think we should be stressing about whether we're going to make the playoffs or not. We probably only need to win 2 of these final 4 games. And we're favored by 14 against the Giants this week. That's one of the heaviest spreads I've seen all year. So we should definitely take care of business against the Giants this week. We only need 1 more win the rest of the season pretty much to get in the playoffs. We might not even need that, but the Ravens are going to make the playoffs. And that's mainly due to the Colts, the Dolphins, the Bengals. All the teams fighting to get into the playoffs are 2+ games back already. So the Ravens are sitting really, really good to just make the playoffs. Now their division chances aren't that great. I think it's went down to a 30% chance that they win the AFC North now, and that is due to us not really controlling the tiebreaker scenarios. And the Steelers do have a tough schedule. It wouldn't shock me if they drop a couple games down the stretch, but they need to drop a lot of games down the stretch because let's say the Ravens win out, right? They win the last 4 games. We have 12 wins. And that would mean that they would beat the Steelers in a few weeks. And then let's say the Steelers drop another game to the Chiefs. And therefore, the Ravens and Steelers would have the same record. But the Steelers control the tiebreaker because they'd have an even overall record. They'd be even in head-to-head. They'd be even in division games. So it then drops to common games. If you have 4 common games, 4 or more common games with another opponent that you're tied with, and obviously the Steelers are in the division, so we share a similar schedule, and we have more than 4 common games. They have us beat in common games. So the only way the Ravens can really win the division is to win out, and the Steelers would have to lose to, the Bengals at the end of the year, or they'd have to lose to the Eagles this week and the Ravens and the Chiefs. So we're looking at needing 3 Steelers losses and the Ravens to win out. So I'm not saying that can't happen. It definitely can happen. The Steelers' schedule is kind of brutal down the stretch, but that is the reason that the Ravens only have a 30% chance of winning the AFC North. So it is kind of unlikely that we're going to win the division. I don't really care, to be honest with you. We've been winning the division often. We've had the number 1 seed 2 times in the last 5 years, and we still didn't go to the Super Bowl. We just had a bye week. Great time for the Ravens to get rest before they have a 4-game stretch and then hopefully roll into the playoffs with some momentum. And we don't have a bye this year. That's definitely not happening. So we should be able to create some momentum and just roll into the playoffs and just keep playing week after week. Not saying I wouldn't want the bye. I definitely like that guaranteed win, but I also am not naive to the fact that you can come out flat after a bye, and a team like the Ravens especially, I feel like, can come out flat after a bye. We've seen that before. So it's not really that big of a negative, in my opinion, that we don't have a bye and that we may need to play the playoffs on the road. I just feel like being the underdog, not being the most favored team, kind of works in our favor. I don't really want to be that number 1 seed where everyone expects you to go to the Super Bowl like we were last year. I still think we are a true Super Bowl contender. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the offensive line is definitely what concerns me the most, but we'll talk more about it later. But I love where the defense is headed, and I love Derrick Henry in the winter. in cold environments, I feel like we're going to be able to pound the rock. We always got Lamar Jackson. So, I mean, there's a lot of things going right for the Ravens to make a run in the playoffs. And I really don't mind where the Ravens sit in this playoff position. I really don't care about the division. I mean, the only difference is some bragging rights, I guess, and a home playoff game to start the first week of the playoffs. But we had a home AFC championship game last year, and it just didn't matter. I really don't care about going on the road. The Ravens can beat any team. They also can be beat by any team. So I'm not saying that we can't be beat. I'm not confident that we're going to go to the Super Bowl. I'm just saying I like the position that we're in. It doesn't really matter to me. I like that it's not a number one seed where you're the hunted and you're the team that everyone's dying to beat like the Chiefs are right now. The Ravens were in that position last year, and I'd rather be an underdog, man. I'd rather be 8-5 where people are kind of writing us off and saying, oh, the Ravens don't have it this year. Meanwhile, our defense is on the rise. Meanwhile, we have Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, top 2 offense in almost every single category. I mean, the Ravens have a ton of things going for them. The offensive line is definitely a concern, especially against these talented fronts. But with the rise of this defense, I feel like it can counteract some of that and keep these games close. And you just never know, man. The playoffs comes. You never know who's going to win those games. I just like that we're in a position to be in the playoffs. We're going to make the playoffs, and we're going to have as good a shot as anybody to make a run towards the Super Bowl. Moving on to the Diontae Johnson situation. I don't want to spend a ton of time here. I made a whole video on it last week, and there's not a ton of new information out there. But there was a new report that came out over the weekend that the Ravens were really let down by this Diontae Johnson situation. But in that report, when you read the details, it says that Diontae has been handling it as well as he possibly could. So I think that that's great news. And I was on Coach Evans Sip to Tally Films YouTube channel on last Thursday, and we talked about it a little bit. And I'll play a clip from that.
I've been told that it wasn't when Bateman got hurt; it was later. So
Okay.
With that being out there, and this
That's
is from one of the reports.
reliable source. Okay, all right.
Yeah, it's on Twitter.
I didn't know when they.
Okay,
Yeah, no, you're good. I didn't hear that like it was only during garbage time. That is new information.
He didn't say garbage time.
Oh,
he just said it was after Tylan Wallace.
Okay,
So
so they put him in first, which rubbed him the wrong way. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And he was, and from everybody else's reports that he was already
pissed off from weeks prior.
Yeah.
I knew that. Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, right.
So
okay.
what do you think about it? And like because I thought the Ravens flock was coming back together.
Yeah,
but this right here,
I know.
It's one side or the other.
I know. Yeah, I gotta say that what my opinion is willing to change if more information comes out. If we hear from Diontae, if we get more behind the scenes info, then I can always adapt how I feel with new information. But right now, with what we know, I feel like the Ravens mismanaged using him. And he's too good of a player to kind of, and I don't know if this was like practice related. You know how like Harbaugh is with like, you got to earn your spot. And like, maybe he came in and was not practicing as hard as other guys. Like maybe, and you don't know the offensive terminology. So I totally understand a couple weeks of learn the offense, get in the playbook so that you're not thinking, you know what I mean? We need you out there where we're not just telling you what route to run. We need you out there understanding the offense at a high level. So let's say he did all that, and we're a couple weeks in. They need to be ramping his usage up. True. Like I do think that they mismanaged his playing time because he peaked like 2-3 weeks ago in usage. Maybe the Bengals game,
17 plays.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, there you go. And then it's been down. It's been going down, and so that's gonna piss him off naturally. And I'd be pissed off if I was a player too. And then I don't agree with him just refusing to go in the game under any circumstance, to be honest with you, because I just don't think even if it was garbage time, even if they put Tylan in first, as frustrated as you are, and I totally think it's fair for him to be frustrated. I feel like that is still your opportunity to just go shut everyone up. Go prove it to the coaches. Like, you guys are dumb. You should have had me out here. Like, now I have, and then if he goes out there and balls, even if it's just that last drive, let's say he gets 2 catches or maybe a touchdown or something. Now you've just earned a role on this team and gave the coaches confidence and bode well for you in free agency next year too.
Now I'm gonna preface mine by saying he, like you said, he should have won the game at any point. Because even if it's that, like you said, that last drive and he get 2 catches and maybe a touchdown, then he can start having leverage on them. Be like, look, when I was out there, this happened. Yeah, I mean, not necessarily you got to say that, but it's evident. Hey, when I was out there, this happened. Don't matter if it was at backups, it happened. So now you at least got to, give me some kind of consideration. But as far as when I first heard about it, without me jumping on either side, I said I needed to know when. And so I was holding off judgment. And I needed to know if they asked him to go in when Bateman got hurt and he said no, because I can't back that at all. But if it's not when Bateman went in, if they asked him to get in that last drive when it was like we was down 2 scores with less time, I can understand sitting there boiling the entire game.
Few interesting things in there. I did learn that potentially Diontae Johnson was not asked to go in the game until well after Bateman was injured. If that is the case, that does change a little bit on how the Ravens are handling this Diontae Johnson situation. I don't know if he bothered them by not practicing hard or had attitude leading up to this game where they were kind of just like, hey, man, we're not really going to play you that much. I don't think that it's an excuse not to go in the game, but I do understand those frustrations boiling to an all-time level when Bate goes down and they still don't ask you if that's the case. If they did ask him to go in when Bate got hurt, then it's absolutely ridiculous that he's not jumping on that opportunity. But I'm really interested to see how this plays out. Does Diontae Johnson get his head on straight, lock in, and just be a part of the team and everyone embraces him? And this is just a little learning curve and this was just a little bump in the road and a little lesson learned, and he's locked in and ready to go, and we're going to use him down the stretch? Or is he a weekly inactive and we're just kind of holding on to him because we don't want him to go to a contender or we want the comp pick next year? I really don't know. I have no idea how this is going to play out. I'm hoping that he has a role in this team. I think we could use his talent. I think that it could bring the team closer together if he dives in and is all in with us. So I don't think it's a negative if they can come together through this adversity. There's been a lot of adversity this year, and if this team can rally together through it, they're stronger for it. And the last thing I wanted to touch on today is this defense is truly on the rise, man. I don't think it's being talked about enough. We're getting Michael Pierce back this week too, so that's a huge boost to the D-line. We got Roquan Smith back in the Eagles game, and his presence was felt. You heard Lane Johnson after the game talking about Roquan calling out his plays or the Eagles' plays.
It wasn't pretty. I thought they were pretty stout defense. You got Roquan Smith, calling out lots of plays, about the run. So, for me, seeing linebacker doing that was since Luke Kuechly, he's probably the guy calling out the most stuff. So, very smart player, instinctive player. That's why we've had so much success.
That's some Ray Lewis stuff, man. And I feel like Roquan's moving around faster, and this bye week is only going to get this defense and this entire team healed up that much more. The defense has been playing so much better, especially the secondary, since we moved those safeties. We cut Eddie Jackson, benched Marcus Williams, started our Darius Washington, moved Kyle Hamilton deep, and it's been working out great. We have a rotation at corner behind Marlowe. It's Wiggins, Stevens, Tre'Davious White. We're also getting TJ Tampa back. How involved does he end up being? We don't know, but I just think that this defense is headed in a great direction. We go from the dead last pass defense. We're already moving up the stat rankings. The defense overall is moving up the stat rankings. And we've said all year with this type of offense that we have, can the defense just be middle of the pack? Can it be an average defense, a solid defense? And I think we're definitely headed in that direction. We've been playing that type of ball for the last 3 weeks. I'm expecting a dominant showing this week against the Giants. That's going to get the team's confidence rolling. We obviously got a rematch against Pittsburgh that I know they're going to be up for. I just feel like this defense has every possible piece to be great. And how they played throughout the entire season, not great. Obviously, that was a weakness for over half of the season. And the stats are going to show it at the end of the year that they're not going to end up being a top 5 defense like we're used to. But if they're playing like a top 5 defense, who cares about the stats? You know what I mean? Who cares if they're balling out every week heading into the playoffs and this defense is similar to what we were seeing last year? Maybe not as dominant, obviously, but similar. A top 5 defense right now. Who cares about what the stats say for the entire season? I think we have the ability to play like a top 5 defense down this stretch and into the playoffs, which is naturally going to keep every game close. And with the offense that we have, I just feel like we're going to be able to win a lot of games that way. I know recently our offense has been stalling a little bit. Our offensive line has been giving us some troubles against these talented fronts, and our defense has been stepping up, but that was not the case this entire season. So I just have a lot of faith that the offense is going to be be able to keep rolling. He's going to be able to score enough. And this defense is going to hold teams to a lower amount of points than they have been previously throughout this season. And that's going to naturally lead to more wins. But we'll see how it all plays out. We got 4 games left and then the playoffs are here. So it's about to get real serious real fast. This is going to fly by. But let's just embrace it, enjoy it. Let me know what you're thinking about everything. I appreciate you guys, as always, for tuning in to another episode of the Flock Rundown. Have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll let the greatest linebacker in the history of the game take us out.
Ravens flock. The Flock Rundown is the place to be. My man Ryan has been a lifelong Ravens fan since he was born. The Flock Rundown. Nothing gets better than waking up and wondering how high we can fly. Tune in.
Motionless brainwaves attempt to swim their way to sense, can't tame the untamed.